Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Jay Davis Show. We're super excited to have Navid Alipour with us today. He's the CEO of AI Med Global. Thanks for coming, Navid.
Jay, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, do you want to just give the listeners kind of a quick bio about your career and what you specialize in?
Yeah, sure. The high level is that I have a law and business background. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a computer scientist. But what we do, very much, we have a team that's made up of doctors and clinicians and data scientists and AI experts. And we use AI, both machine learning capabilities and what's called KRR AI, knowledge representation and reasoning AI, that not as many people are familiar with. But we can talk about that, of course. But we use these technologies to help take the fight to cancer and heart disease. We use it to detect cancer and heart disease for women specifically
Yeah.
from one mammogram, so 2 for 1 from the mammogram. Early detection, of course, is critical for any disease, but definitely for cancer, for breast cancer and heart disease. And then on the Cure Match side of the business, so within AI Med Global, we have Cure Metrics and Cure Match, um, and AI Med Global, kind of like the holding company name. On the Cure Match arm, it's for any cancer, not just breast cancer, so for man, woman, or child, unfortunately, that has cancer. And if a doctor wants to recommend a 3-drug combination, literally there's over 4.5 million combinations, so it's beyond human cognition to process that many combinations. And that's what we do to then say, based on this patient specific next gen sequencing biopsy information, to the layperson, I say it's like the 23andMe or the ancestry.com of that patient specific cancer. Um,
Okay.
in all the combinations available, here's the recommended combination, um, and in our report that then goes to the oncologist in their arsenal of how to fight that person's cancer.
Interesting. So you're taking all of that information and creating more of a custom roadmap, so to speak, of here's how we're going to fight this cancer.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. And at the end of the day, my co-founder is an amazing lady by the name of Dr. Roselle Kurzrock. That's Kurzrock for your listeners. She's Canadian at birth, and she always said cancer is like snowflakes. No two snowflakes ever look the same. So, of
Yeah.
course, in your neck of the woods in Utah, you have the best snow in the world, but no two snowflakes ever look the same. And
Yeah.
cancer is the same. Cancer molecularly, no two will ever look the same. So even though we identify cancer by organ of the body it's found in, lung
Yeah.
cancer, liver cancer, breast cancer, really it should be identified by the molecular structure makeup. So you could actually have a cancer found in the lung that molecularly is similar to cancer found in the stomach. Um,
Yeah.
and so to truly deliver personalized medicine, you have to have that treatment take into account that person's specific molecular makeup of their cancer. Um, and no two are ever the same.
That's fascinating. So how did you I mean, you mentioned your more law and business
Yeah,
background.
yeah.
How did you end up in medical
Yeah,
AI?
no, sorry, I got excited talking about the companies, and
No,
so I
that's
you
super interesting.
I'd like to say that everything was masterfully planned and,
Yeah.
it wasn't, right? There's a bit of serendipity involved and, opportunities, doors open that, one walks through. And so I'd gone the venture capital route. We had, we're investing in startups. We have a small VC fund with an artificial intelligence focus because again, there's a lot of talent around, San Diego with that, with the
Yeah.
supercomputer center here in UC San Diego. Um, and so we were always looking at companies to invest in, and meeting with founders and potential founders, and, we had these scientists that found us, frankly, and luckily they heard more good things than bad things, and they reached out and they said, "Hey, we don't have a business plan, we don't have a business model, but this is what we do." And literally rocket scientists had worked for NASA, helping detect what's called anomalies in space weather, which NASA was at the time was only in the 60th percentile accuracy detecting. And they send these data sets to Stanford, MIT, JPL, UC San Diego. No one else could do better, but these guys got 90% accuracy the first time. NASA said, "You
Man,
got lucky. Here's another data set." Well, it's machine learning. It learns the more data you feed it, and it got better to the tune of 99% accuracy. And so that's where when they came to us and they shared this, we said, "Well, look, that's great. We're in San Diego, it's a healthcare town. What can we do in applying this technology and your expertise to healthcare?" And in the interest of
Yeah.
time, we said, can you detect breast cancer better than existing computer assisted detection technologies?" And they very confidently said, "Yeah, we can do that." So we married their expertise with our operational background and expertise, and we brought in a fantastic chief medical officer, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bill Bradley at the time, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. We have another chief medical officer now, but Bill was instrumental at the beginning of the history. And so we came at it with as investors, but we literally
Yeah.
applying this venture studio model started the company. So, but for us, the company wouldn't exist. And we brought the team members together. We put the first money in. We, attracted, more investors, more team members, more board members and partners and so forth. And so while we are investors and, have a VC fund, I'm frankly more proud of saying we're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We're business builders, and we rolled up our sleeves and develop these companies. And myself, I'm operational 100% right now in developing these technologies to help prolong lives and save lives.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I have several things I'd love to kinda go down, but maybe one of the first places is how have you guys approached that innovation? 'Cause, that's such an interesting and I think aligns so much with how I view innovation, but taking that like, "Hey, you've applied this to space.
Yeah.
What if we applied it to cancer instead?" Like, what were the lessons that you learned in innovating? Like, some of the things that you weren't expecting, some of the things maybe you were? How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's never a straight line, right? It's two steps forward, one step back. And what we first came at, in regards to just let's take this up 30,000 feet. Artificial intelligence is this term that, it makes it into the news and then it kind of disappears for a while. And it's
Yeah,
been around for decades, right? And it has these fits and these starts. And of course, now it's in the news with Chat GPT and, and everything else around that. Um, and so we came at it from that perspective to say, okay, this is a technology that is going to fundamentally change our lives. Technology is not good or evil; it's just how is it used, right? The automobile, for example, it's not. Sure it's maimed and killed many people and it pollutes, but it's done so many good things for us as well, right? It's how is the technology used? So we said if this is a technology that's in some ways going to be more impactful on our lives than the internet itself, right? I'm not going to be name names. There's people much better known than me that say it's the new electricity. It's a
yeah.
bigger invention than fire, and which I don't. That's a hard one to argue, but some famous, well-known people that
Yep,
are in the news cycle have made these statements. Um, so I wouldn't necessarily again go that far, but I will say I think it's as important, if not more important, than the internet itself and how it's going to impact our lives. And so that's where we came at as investors first. And then we said, okay, there's an opportunity. Also, we're very mission driven. We said, what can we do that will have a big impact? We didn't want to just start a company to help deliver pizza to you faster or walk your dog or a dating app, right? We wanted to build something meaningful. And so we said, okay, what can we do applying AI to all the data that's being generated within our healthcare system to help detect, predict, recommend, forecast, um, and identify these anomalies, so to speak, and that can help improve the quality of our lives.
yeah. Well, it sounds like it's turned out better than the group that raised a couple 100,000,000 from Clearbank to do AI predictive pizza. So,
It's turned out better, sure, yes.
that's amazing. So, as you guys have gone down that road, I mean, it's really interesting because 'cause you're coming at it from the investor operator and you're building what are some of the lessons you've learned about being entrepreneurs and being operators that maybe were surprising to you coming more from the investor side initially?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say within the healthcare industry, um, the regulatory hurdles that we have
Yeah.
to overcome, we came at it with as a bit of an outsider's perspective, and sometimes that's beneficial, right? And
Yeah.
to think about things differently. And so that's why I think when you're building a team, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder, you're a CEO of a company, or senior executive of a potentially new company, or even a company that's growing, it's all about finding the right team members to complement each other. If everyone was the same, what's the value in that, right? And
Yeah.
so, I like to say, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, and sometimes depending on how mad my wife is, she says it's pretty easy to do. Uh, but I want to find the best, chief medical officer, the best
Yeah.
data scientist, the best, marketing person, or the best programmer, and of course their personalities have to fit our corporate culture. That's so important too. If there's a reason of the saying, hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
Um, if you make a bad hire, that's toxic, right? And that could have a impact on the overall culture of the company. So, is that's where we started putting the pieces together. Like I said, we think of ourselves as operators, building this company. We said, okay, the regulatory hurdles were not an area we were familiar with, so we have to hire a regulatory expert, in the right one, and the right law firm, and the right consultants, right? And so, that was more of a learning curve initially,
Yeah.
it was specific to healthcare.
Yeah. No, I think that's I was just this morning talking to another entrepreneur about it's amazing seeing how many companies succeed or really struggle off of single decisions of hiring someone. We were talking about a friend who has a business that's really struggling, um and a key hire that they made a couple years ago was just the wrong person. They didn't have the right or the right experience, and it's amazing to see how far down the wrong road that can take you, especially if it takes a couple years to recognize, like, oh, this is the wrong person, and it's not an easy task. What are some of those things that you've learned about how to find the right people, but also the right partners? I think that's another. Finding the right law firm can make huge swings in how much success
Absolutely.
you have.
Absolutely, and I mean, look, there's kind of the check the box, right? If you want to be, if you're a startup and you're looking to raise money, and
Yeah.
um, Silicon Valley Bank, of course, in the news cycle these days, but it used to
Yeah.
be, oh, we bank with Cooley or DLA Piper, and we have a bank account with Silicon Valley Bank, right? So then,
Yep.
like, okay, whereas before, if a startup was like, okay, we're with Citibank or Wells Fargo, and we have XYZ law firm that's not known. It was another excuse for investors to say no or pass, right? Because investors, from the institutional investors on down to, let's say, angel investors that it's not their first rodeo, they look for reasons to say no, right? And so
Yeah.
that's where the more boxes you can check off to at least not have that be an excuse, then you go from one meeting to the next, to the next, to the next. And so there are certain service providers that, again, just based off referrals within your ecosystem, whether you're in San Diego or you're in Salt Lake City, Park City, San Francisco, wherever you are, you want to find the right service providers and do some
Yeah.
reference checks to find those vendors, right? Because there are some that'll not be qualified, or will certainly charge you more than they should. So it's important to do your due diligence, I think, as to service providers and consultants and whatnot. In regards to the hires, it's so important, and sometimes you think, well, I can't afford that person, right? And you're better off if it's truly the right person, and if you've done your due diligence, um, you having one exceptional person rather than two, three, four mediocre
Yeah.
individuals, right? So there's that element, and part of the use of funds to grow could be just that. You say we're, going to hire and build out the team upon, raising this additional capital, and this is how we're going to scale. And then if you end up hiring the wrong person, yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done, but the sooner you can figure out this person is a wrong person, um, whether it's a technical capability they don't have, or they don't fit the corporate culture, or whatever other reason, it's better to just pull that band-aid off faster.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a really great point. I think that's also where entrepreneurship can be so difficult because
It's not a science.
it's meant to be difficult. If it was
It
easy, it wouldn't work.
If it was easy, everyone would do it and everyone would be successful, and that's just, that's not how capitalism works, right?
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, as you've done that, I mean, you guys have seen a lot of things change. You've gone through a lot of amazing experiences. What do you think that one of the key lessons, someone comes to you and is like, "Hey, I'm just getting going. The business is starting to work." What's like the one thing you're like, "Dude, make sure you do this." uh, tell that entrepreneur the thing they should really be thinking about.
So if they're at that point where they have called that minimal viable product, right? Or they're starting to make some sales, excuse me, and they're getting some traction, um, I would say surround yourself with people that are, I touched on this earlier, better at you at everything.
Yeah,
And surround yourself with, you know, whether it's full-time employee team members or it's consultants or it's advisory boards, right? And you bring in people that can open doors uh, that but for them would not be. And so I think I would start with that. Say what's your missing gap? What is something you don't enjoy doing or can't do, and find someone that enjoys doing that and is really good at doing that.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Uh, this is one I love asking. What's a book that you've been reading lately that you would recommend to everyone, especially AI? I'm sure there's got to be a couple good ones that you could
There
throw
there
out.
there are, but, the book that I'm reading right now, and I know right before the call we were geeking out on it a little bit, I'm a bit of a history buff,
Yeah,
so I'm reading a book called Empire Builder, and it's about and I love, biographies, I'm historical, I'm a bit of a geek there, and it's about John Spreckles, who built the Hotel Del Coronado here in San Diego,
yeah,
and the San Diego Gas and Electric and Belmont Park and just was an integral part of the history of San Diego and was just an incredible entrepreneur. And so I love reading those type of stories and taking away and learning from them some even one or two nuggets. But it's incredible history, right? From giving the land that's now North Island, which is even if we have 1,000 years of peace, that naval base will always be there because it's so critical.
yeah,
And so he gave it, to the Navy. I don't not yeah, he didn't necessarily wanna give it forever, uh but that's how it ended up happening, and, he got paid decent for it, but it was the first place that a seaplane ever took off and landed from, um, and so a lot of just
that's
anyway, not to
fascinating.
digress. But
No, yeah, I love
I
that.
mean, I yeah, I love, reading about what, others built, and that could be from 10 years ago to 100 years ago.
Yeah, I've been I just barely started, but I started Titan
Okay.
about Rockefeller. Um, and it's just fascinating. I
Oh,
think a lot of those it's easy, I think, sometimes for us to look at history and say, "Man, they were so different. They didn't understand what we understand. We're so smart now." And then you read those books and you're like, "No, it's the exact same stuff."
it
It's
it is, and I'm gonna put that one on my list too. I've heard of it, I haven't read it, but no, it's absolutely, the same, whether you're reading about Henry Ford or the Rockefellers or a present day, Elon Musk and the Bill Gates of the world and others. I mean,
yeah,
first off, everyone is imperfect, right? No one is perfect. They have people that love them, people that hate them, right? And I think if you get
yeah,
to a certain level, there's gonna be people that wanna, take you out at your knees, right? And there's certain people that love Elon Musk and people that hate Elon Musk, right? And because
yeah,
he's in the news every cycle, right? And it was the same back then. But I think what's fascinating is just the history and the perseverance and the the tenacity they had to build what they built.
yeah. That's definitely, when I think of, like, what time would I have loved to been born in other than now? I always think those, like, kinda more pioneer, moving to a place, building out a town, playing SimCity is pretty
The Oregon Trail days, right?
yeah. Well, and even you think about San Diego and that development, it's amazing to go there now, and You just kinda take it all for granted that it's all just there.
I mean, we were watching 1883, which
Yeah.
is,
Oh, yeah.
fantastic show of an offshoot of Yellowstone, and in my head, I was like, they were doing that back then while the Hotel Del was up and running, and
Yeah.
so built about at the same time, about 125, 130 years
That
ago.
is
And
crazy.
so just crazy to places that you have these pioneers in wagons from Germany that are, crossing, the Midwest, and at the same time, there's, skyscrapers being well, maybe not skyscrapers at the time, buildings being built in New York and
Yeah.
hotels here, and,
Yeah.
but, yeah, no, I think every time is fascinating in its own way, when you look back, and have the benefit of, that hindsight.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I'm gonna check that out for sure. Well, when it comes to AI, I think it's one of like you said, so talked about right now. What's your view on it? What's kind of your opinion on how we leverage AI, where it will take us, all
Yeah,
that
no,
stuff?
no, look, I think, not to overuse all the terms of it's this, the most important thing since, electricity or internet. It's
Yeah, yeah,
incredibly it is a technology that is going to impact our lives in ways we can't even imagine. And I think that the reason that this cycle is not going to go away comes down to three aspects. One, there's more data being collected to process and get value out of, whether that's data from your iPhone, your iWatch, a Tesla. If you drive a Tesla, that's as the
yeah.
engineers call it, it's a node, right? Anything that
Yep.
is connected to the internet is a node. A pacemaker that's connected to the internet, right? Any medical device. So all these nodes uh, are generating data, and to unlock that data, you need higher compute capacity. So the GPU chips that were initially built for video games are these incredibly powerful chips, and then to process more data. And then with the cloud and having the benefit of the cloud instead of having to have your own hardware and data center, it's much less expensive to process more data. And so higher compute capacity, more data to unlock value from and to mine and detect patterns and anomalies, and with the cloud, it's much less expensive. So for us, in applying our AI to mammograms to detect breast cancer and heart disease, if we didn't have the cloud, we'd have to have spent tens of millions of dollars more on just having the
Yeah.
hardware to do that, right? And we probably would this company wouldn't exist probably if that was the case. So it's much easier to start companies because of the that fact. We don't need our own hardware. Um, and so I think that's where with AI, it's only going to go faster and faster here. And so there are going to be a need. There will be a need for people with PhDs in AI ethics, right? So that's a job that's going to have to be filled. It's going to pay very well, but there are also people that are going to lose their jobs, and so there's
Yeah.
jobs that are created that we can't fathom, and there's certainly jobs that will be disrupted. But you can't stop innovation, and if we stop, by the way, you think the Russians are gonna stop? You think the Chinese are gonna stop? The Europeans?
Yeah.
So then we become a third world country if we stop. So, eh I think, that's just, what we have to deal with, and it's a technology at the end of the day. It's not good or evil. It's there will be bad actors that'll look to use it in ways that would, harm us or others. So our job is to, find ways to mitigate those bad actors and
Yeah.
uses would otherwise harm us, whether it's healthcare, cybersecurity, a national security issue. But what I would say is if someone is not a data scientist or is not a computer, developer or programmer, and they're like, oh, that's not for me. Well, that's not the case. Even if you're a real estate agent, you should know how AI can be used to impact your business because if it doesn't replace you, someone in your field using it will replace you. So it's a tool to use to, again, make a prediction, a recommendation, a forecast, detect trends and patterns and anomalies. And so that's where, even if you're not a data scientist with a physics background, I think it's important for everyone to know how this tool can potentially impact their lives and their livelihoods.
Yeah. No, it's a fascinating time where we kind of are in this. We've seen so much technology progress, or technological progression in the last 40 years. And then for some reason, AI is the one that everyone's like, it's going to take over. And kill all of us and steal all of our jobs. And it's like the internet has made our lives so much easier, and it's allowed us to progress because it's taken so many of those kind of rote, kind of more monotonous things, and allowed us to not have to do them anymore.
A 100%.
And none of us, and we've drastically improved society through that progress.
Absolutely. And in healthcare specifically, we have a shortage of doctors. We have
Yeah.
a shortage of nurses. And I just read a few weeks ago that there's gonna be a wave of, retirements coming, and that's gonna make the problem even more acute. So, the fact is, we need more doctors, or we need to have tools that empower them to be able to treat more people and see more people and deliver better
Yeah.
care. And so, again, what we develop, I always say, AI is not gonna replace the doctor, but the doctor using it will replace the radiologist, the cardiologist, the oncologist that is not using it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great point. Well, we time always flies. Anything that you would ask people to go do? Is there something that people can who are listening can help with or draw attention to? What would be your call to action?
I would say anyone that's interested in what we're doing, whether they have cancer or a loved one does, go directly to curematch.com, C-U-R-E match, M-A-T-C-H.com. There's ways you could contact us there, of course, our phone number or email or whatnot. And then on the breast cancer, heart disease detection front, it's curemetrics.com, METRIX. And if you're from the industry, whether a doctor or hospital, from the insurance side, we're always looking to find the partners to work with so we can get these technologies out to market faster. And even if we can do it one day faster, that's someone's life we can impact.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I want to keep talking about some AI stuff. Maybe we'll talk after we finish recording. But thanks so much, Navid, for coming and sharing. It's amazing to see kind of where the world is going and that people like you guys are trying to solve some of these big problems that we have.
Well, Jay, thank you for having me. And look, I'm a glass half full guy, and I think anyone that's an entrepreneur is glass half full. You have to be to keep pushing
Yep.
forward. And I think we live in incredible times in light of all the nastiness sometimes we read in the news.
Yeah. No, I love it. Appreciate it, and thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.